Alright, take 3 of trying to play this game on stream for today. Hopefully it works this time. After all the clusterfucks of getting this controller to fucking work right, I think we finally got it done, boys. For some reason, the last few times I've tried today, the controller has been like completely off the fritz. Like it just refuses to use the regular key bindings. But this time for sure, I think we've finally got it settled. So let's get into it, yeah? Right, alright, so anyway, not really planning to do too much today. For the most part, for those of you who watched the previous stream, we just spent 4 hours completely getting our face kicked in by the Crystal Nightmare. So, I guess our gear isn't really as good as I thought it was, As in the gear that Nagi has at the moment, it seems like it isn't sufficient for us to be able to clear the dungeon peacefully. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slowly farm some of the endgame gear as well. Hopefully we get enough of it such that the bosses in the boss rush aren't two-shotting us anymore. Of course, it's like with the way this game works, right? All it takes is like something to hit you, and for that thing to last long enough to hit you a second time before you move away, and you're fucking dead. So we're gonna want to try to do something to make it such that we don't die in one shot, yeah? Or rather in 2 shots for that matter, because either way, we're taking so much damage at present that we are not gonna want to use our present gear at all when doing the boss rush, I would think. Or we would want to replace most of it like we did when we initially got the Plate of Grief, because it's like, before we got it, a single attack could do 150 HP worth of damage, but after getting it, it actually reduced by quite a lot, so it would seem that the gear does help quite a bit, and we would probably, as such, want to bring some with us as we try to slowly grind through the Crystal Nightmare dungeon for gear. Gear to make the boss rush and a single sitting of all 30 floors a little more feasible. Because right now our problem is that that's just a fuck ton of damage, as you can see, so we are gonna want to get more gear before we push through this dungeon. The mouse on screen. All looks good. It's not helping that I'm sucking so much either. Alright. But yeah. There hasn't been that much time since the last stream either, so I'm not so sure what to even talk about much. We can try continuing or doing a redo of what I was thinking of doing a previous stream right before. I realized that the game wasn't gonna work at all at the time. So I guess I could talk about life, right? Hopefully, anyway, no one was in this previous, like, first 30 minutes, 20 minutes of the failed attempt to stream the game, so hey, if I do it again, it wouldn't make too much of a... I don't think anybody will be affected at all if I just redo the entire thing, right? Yeah, sure. So, I was thinking at the time of maybe talking a little about life, I guess. I'm not that old, I don't have an entire life story to tell either, but, hopefully parts of this, it could work as an example of, it could work as a model of, maybe it might give you some inspiration how to live your life as well, not so much in listen to me and your life will be better, but more like, don't do what I did, and maybe you won't fuck up to the colossal level that I did with my life. Yeah. So, right, let's begin. I suppose I could just do a quick story, right? I'm ended up working in Japan in the first place, and in this predicament where I'm like getting worked half to death every other week. Or rather, I got soul work to the point that they stopped me from working overtime, which led to the creation of this channel. Right, I had to swap my many key as well because the game doesn't allow me to use it. Button when setting the config anymore for some reason. So, right. Anyway, so for me, I initially started deciding, or rather, I initially decided that I wanted to work in Japan when I was in the third year of university. Or rather, it's a pre-mixed bag, yeah, like when I was a kid, I wanted to as well, you know, cause like all the cool shit as a kid, right, it's like in Japan and not in your home country, and you just like have the feeling of, you know what, maybe I want to work there. No, it'd be cool, right, with all the things that don't actually exist that I could be around potentially. And just gave up on that. As I became an adult, but like, you know, the longer you spend in a country, the more you either grow to like be alright with how the country is, or you grow to hate it so much that you want to leave. You know, sort of that second group of people who want to really leave the country they were living in. So when it came to deciding, well then if I do, where do I want to go? Well, that was a fantastic way to fail right off the bat. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Anyway, that's not too important. What is important is well, I mean, it's not really important, but let's get back to the story. Yeah, so it's the case for every country, I guess, or group of people. Eventually you have a bunch who really just decide to up and leave. I was one of them, you know, decided to leave the country I was working in, or had lived in my entire life, and was raised in, too. With the goal of working in another country. So in part, for me, the reason for choosing Japan was one, because it's one of the better places for the industry I'm working within the region, and the fact that, well, there are still reasons we want to work in Japan, aside from wanting to defend ourselves from overwork. You know? For one thing, you get to be closer to a lot of the game releases, in a sense, like, especially for Japanese games, you realize if you purchase them a lot, that Japan has this thing where they like to give additional shit with the game if, and only if, you buy it at specific stores or chain brands around the country, which means there's a shit ton of stuff you can get which you can't get overseas. Aside from that, you also get like, it's also a lot easier to get to events in general. You talk about live events, things like that, or even something as simple as purchasing off certain websites. It's easier to do it from within Japan, because a lot of things in Japan are still pretty archaic and xenophobic. As a result, you actually need a Japanese credit card or phone number just to use certain sites. Someone who frequents those, it actually helps to be able to do it directly instead of relying on some other service to do it, you know. Like, you don't want to be using some fucking, what do you call it, cancel service? What do you call it? cancel my English rapidly deteriorating, isn't it? Like those like services that help you to reshape the stuff in your country. What are they called? Fuck my memory. You know, things like From Japan, etc., etc., that help you to ship shit from that country to your house overseas using an address in Japan, because those stores require you to have a Japanese address to purchase from them. Yeah, not having to use them and pay the exorbitant prices most of them actually charge is kind of quite a blessing as well for me, at least, since I do purchase a lot of stuff from them, especially when I was younger. Well, so yeah, blah blah blah, you got lots of things like events that can only be attended from in Singapore when you're there. Things like that. So, the best, well, I mean, I wouldn't know if you call it the best, but since I already had reasons to want to work there, and I didn't want to work in my home country, I just moved overseas here. Of course, then that's the question of how did I even pick up the language in the first place? You know, people would say that like, oh, yeah, you don't want to learn completely from weak material in the first place, because most of the time you're gonna end up with like pretty weird Japanese, because quite a bit of the stuff is not really practical to real life Japanese. But at the same time, right? Well, that is true. It depends on the type of anime you're watching, I guess. If you're watching something that, well, centered in realism, it tends to be a bit more practical. Because when the crux of the story is something that's meant to be realistic, you have characters that tend to be more realistic as well. Right, so anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So anyway, since it's a chill stream, I figured I might as well just talk about life, right? Like, so it's your, or rather, so at the time I wanted to move overseas, and at the same time, I knew that Japan was probably the place that I wanted to go as a way younger kid, right? But at the same time, the way I even picked up the language in the first place was surprisingly, unsurprisingly enough, I suppose. You know, it's at least when I was young, at least, you know, localization wasn't as common. So, since localization wasn't really a thing, you had to improvise if you wanted to play a game, right? Because yes, you could depend on fan translations, but fan translations in those days aren't as efficient as they are now, right? Especially when it comes to things like games. Like, if you look at even something as simple as like what? A visual novel like Little Busters. The fan translation takes what? 6 to 8 months. It's not really practical. So, picked up the language slowly through playing games. Particularly play games like, you know, the early Fire Emblems, which I don't think even now have not been translated yet. Don't quote me on that, because I don't recall it so well. But yeah, if I recall, that was... It was like games like those and, well, among other games in general, which, well, with enough repeated exposure, I just slowly get used to looking at it. If you're interested in both, like even reading as well as ordinary like anime, they both, well, it makes games a little easier, particularly modern games, because what you can't read typically a character or another's gonna be saying it, so either way you would more or less have a way of picking up the language, or rather picking up what is being said when you get more familiar with it over time. And I guess for me, learning to read was the more time-consuming part. if you watch enough stuff, through listening to the same things over and over again, you just get used to hearing it, so you know this means this. But reading is different without as much exposure. So what I did at the time was, because like, Japanese, they like to make things pretty inefficient. So even when it comes to something as simple as their written language, you have two basic alphabet systems, right? Which I think most weebs will be pretty familiar with. We got both hiragana and katakana, which are both different uses, even though you could realistically use them interchangeably and there's no much realistic difference. So what I did was I spent 3 months doing nothing but trying to memorize those big terms. And with that, it took a while, yeah, but once you get that down, effectively you can do anything that isn't kanji, right? Which means if you start with media that is simple enough, like let's say you're playing an old retro game, where everything is hiragana and katakana, you can then start to learn or find practical use for that the alphabets that you've picked up. As you become more familiar with that, certain elements of media will get more possible to enjoy. Right. You're not gonna be able to read everything right off the bat, but if you're going in stages, then from something that only uses hiragana and katakana, it's quite rare nowadays. You can go to something that isn't as rare, like shonen manga, I guess. If you want something to read that's easy to use as practice, things like I think Naruto has ended, hasn't it? I don't know if that series is still going on, but like things like that, basically series that were initially to begin with designed for a younger audience. At least in Japan it was, so as a result, they actually tend to use a lot more of something called hiragana, which is basically just hiragana, but it's written beside kanji block of text, so that people who can't read the kanji can actually look at the hiragana to try and piece together what text is on screen. And what the fuck is that damage? Hello? Yeah, so you can use that as a way, I guess, if you're actually interested to pick up the language, because for shonen manga in general, whenever it's complicated, right, kanji is being used, there will be like hiragana for it, so you can like, as someone who can memorize the alphabet, just look at it and you would more or less be able to like tell how to pronounce it, and then from there you just slowly start to memorize what it means. Well, I mean, if you're very used to, or you have a lot of exposure to like other forms of media, then you more or less would know the word if it was read out or something like that, right? Or hiragana, katakana, some people would be able to understand what it is. It's because it's in kanji that they don't, so the hiragana helps with things like that. And from there you can slowly pick up like readings of certain words. Although this method of learning is pretty... what? What's this? What's this? Alright, give me 1 second. Oh, is this the Will-O-Wisp? That, like... Oh, so this is what they mean by the Will-O-Wisp, okay. Okay, so we just need to run away now, right? Okay, so we just need to run very, very fast and away from it, I suppose. Okay. Okay, at least we found the flaw. Although it feels like they appear pretty fast, because I don't remember spending enough time ever to this point on the floor for them to appear. Much less on a floor like this where I'm actually trying to run around to find the exit as fast as possible, but cool. Not bad on. Oh yes, you can effectively learn the language through those forms of media as well. Well, I mean, to pick up certain things, but you obviously shouldn't be picking up everything, like the patterns of speech and things like that are not things that you would want to specifically pick up on, because some of those aren't as grounded in realism. I do apologize, I do something once in a while. I'm doing this on a work break means that at times I might still need to deal with something even though I'm on break, because Japan do be like that. Alright. But yeah, it's possible to pick up some stuff, it's just not very... There's a limit to what you can do and how. And for me, yeah, that was how I slowly picked up how to read better. You start with like memorization of hiragana. And once you go into something like shonen manga, even if you don't understand the word, by virtue of the fact that there's hiragana there, you can just like search for the word using a Japanese keyboard, since you can just type the hiragana by typing kanji for it. And that pretty much works out. So that with that already picked up how to read, and then I just slowly increased the difficulty of the stuff I was reading. I guess like you could technically tier it, right? You do like something like a shonen manga, which is very simple and easier to pick up words from, and then you just move on to something more complicated, like I don't know, go for a crime manga or something. I don't know. Just slowly go up with those because they are pictorial still. So even if, like me, your brain instead of like your IQ is like that of a monkey, you will more or less be able to like use the pictorial hints to get a better understanding of what is going on. Alright, defense power doubled. No wonder they are like taking so long to kill. But yeah, pictorial pictures in general do help with picking it up as well. And then when you feel a bit more confident, you can start moving to light novels or something, and then you just keep cranking it up until hopefully in a few years, even like something like a normal non-light saying non-light novel feels a little weird, but yeah, something like that might work out too. Alright, give me 1 second here. Let me find my phone. I need to check something real quick. Oh shit, there's too much stuff on my table. I can't find my phone. Alright, give me like 10 seconds. Well, I'll just continue talking in the meantime. So yeah, picked up like reading in general from there. We slowly moved on to novels, and it's like light novels, which even for light novels you have stuff that's more aimed at a younger audience, because they know that the people who read those are also not extremely old. So you can just use those as practice, and over time just slowly move towards I almost fell there. The actual full-on series. Oh, it's not series, I mean like you just move from a light novel to a full-blown novel. And voila, over time that's how I picked up the language. And hey, people would say that it's not that practical, and I do agree. But if you're left to your own general devices, that is one of the better ways to do it, in my opinion at least. So yeah, it's doable. Just not something that would be recommended. Needless to say, if you could go to a school to learn it, that might be for the best, but like those cost a lot of money, and I don't know, just something about having to go out to just makes it feel less efficient as well, since you can only do stuff during times where I'm like more it's just less conducive because you're in a room full of plenty of other people. You can't really focus on what you specifically want to, things like that. I mean, at least nowadays it's not as bad. It's like phone apps are a thing, and there's plenty to help teach as well. Maybe those work. Those came out way after I started to be proficient enough to use it for work, so I never actually gave them a try. But yeah, you could theoretically learn the language largely through their entertainment, and then from there, you just start to use more proper, serious mediums to pick up everything else. Like I mean, for Japanese is not like Korean where you have like formal and informals for most words as well. So the thing is basically trying to learn the difference and when to use each one is a thing that has to be learned as well. But like for those, you can either use online courses, I feel. That would be the best way, would be something that allows you to speak to others. Basically, like as much as I wouldn't recommend a class at the start of learning the language, if you're intending to go very deep into it, by the end you would probably want to go to a class that focuses more on conversational Japanese. Unless you can actually like live in an environment that allows you to speak a lot, which for me was kind of the case. So when I was in when I entered university, I was like, I no longer wanted to at the time, and work in Japan, as odd as it is, coming from someone who's working there, and like at the time I was thinking that I didn't want to. But since I already picked up the language and I had to from their international testing board, which is basically the JLPT, I could effectively use it to get part-time jobs, which I effectively use as a way to actually practice the language instead. Fucking, I shouldn't have touched that. Fuck. God damn it. We were so close to the end too. Why did I hit it? Why did I hit it? Well, there goes another day. Completely wasted in game. Give me a second, I need to find that fucking phone. But yeah, so the thing is, I spent a lot of time on that. And the way I learned, rather than spending a lot of time on like stuff like anime at the later parts, I just ended up transitioning to using, or rather after I learned enough from anime and the like, right? You can effectively use that to learn enough Japanese to get to the JLPT. Then once you have taken the JLPT, depending on where you live and how much exposure there is to Japanese people in general, you can effectively then use it to get into part-time jobs, which puts you in situations where you might need to use it more. So for me, it was like, it just slowly put me in more roles that were more and more interpreter-ish intensive. or interpreter related jobs. Like at the start, you would do something that is more related to just the Japanese guy who can't speak English will order you to do something, and you would just be like, "Oh, hai, shochi itashimashita," and then you just do it, right? And then you just move on to like since it's a part-time job in university, you just don't really mind as much. So I just did that for a while. One second. I just need to move away one more time to get this. But yeah, you would do an interpreter job, things like that over a long period of time as the job gets more and more language intensive, and that helps you to learn because like you're basically put in environments where you could actually, one, listen to Japanese people talk a lot, and two, interact with them in a way that it slowly becomes more and more meaningful, I guess. Like you start off first just listening to orders, but if you have downtime during lunch, you can try speaking to them, practicing, observing how they speak, and then you would slowly be able to Alright, I'm ready for the dungeon again. But yeah, you would slowly be able to understand better what they're saying, and by virtue of the fact that you are being exposed to people who speak the actual language, speaking as they would in their natural habitat, as weird as it is to put it that way, you would be able to learn more about how to speak. Or rather, you can improve your speaking skills as well. Needless to say, because for me, the way, basically, if you look at it that way, everything was just a trial by fire. Or practically by virtue of the fact that getting certified for JLPT, right, which is like internationally used, is actually a lot easier than getting a job as an interpreter, because when you get the certificate, people assume you can speak, but the test actually never tests people for whether or not they can speak, whether fluently or otherwise. It just assumes that by virtue of the fact that you passed, you should be able to listen to most stuff. And since you can listen to most stuff, you probably can reply to most stuff, because the test assumes that by virtue of the fact that you can answer what to do, how to reply in a multiple choice question, you can do it in a real life setting open-ended. Needless to say, that's not the case. It just puts you in like high pressure situations where you either learn or you make a complete fool of yourself and then get employed again, which can sound quite terrifying if you are worried about, like, you know, your future prospects as an interpreter or something, but like, it doesn't get that bad. When they're hiring like university students, they don't tend to have as high expectation anyway to begin with. So. Yes, not too bad. And just take the opportunities to work with them to learn their mannerisms and ways of thinking, rather than picking that specific sort of stuff up from anime, which, yeah, you don't really want to do it. It's kind of wince-worthy. I'm gonna sound like, as the Japanese call it, you just sound like, some fucking plot. Like Japanese wannabe weak or something. You don't want that if you want to eventually work there. You're probably gonna get ostracized by the entire country if you do that. But yeah, aside from that, the best way to learn, I would say, at the start, you go through the basics, like you would with anything in the world, right? Like hiragana and katakana. It's a must, you know. It's like it's the same with any language. Like if you can't read the alphabet, you can't read English, right? You have to start and be fluent if you can't read at all, you might be able to speak, but it's like to improve the materials you will need to improve are things you wouldn't be able to access easily because of inability to read. And if your goals, like mine and mine were to like play games and earn money, reading is like a must for the most part. And so you just want to put yourself in situations as far as possible that allow you to do that. Like for me, it's just a myriad of weird part-time job, starting with doing like branch work on anime events. No. Just like do branch work on those events, and then slowly, as they realize that hey, this guy can actually speak, or as you learn to speak and get offered like some weird odd jobs which may or may not come your way if you're working with like agencies that require people who can speak the language. And you just get introduced to a myriad of like weird odd jobs you can do. Like for me, there's also things like translating documentaries, things like that. You know, imagine just because of the cert, you get the opportunity, which is quite stupid because it's like, even at the time, I wouldn't consider myself a good translator either, but you learn, right? You can learn from those experiences. And you just slowly improve the command of a language to the point that eventually you're going to want to find a job that allows you to improve in business level because it's a very stupid but necessary thing as well, like business level Japanese. It's like, you can imagine that the business level Japanese, right, it's like the English equivalent of speaking like a medieval subject king. Whenever you speak in the company, which it sounds fucking bizarre and stupid and pointless, but it's a thing that exists, and that as a country you come to accept as a norm. So if you intend to work there, you're gonna want to be able to do that to some extent eventually. Else, even working as a waiter or a cashier is without that knowledge. So for that, I actually did go for to a language school eventually, with the intention of learning business level Japanese. I mean, there's even an exam for it, although I didn't end up taking it in the end because I ended up getting employed before that, so didn't really have a huge amount of time that the specific business level test course requires for it. Like, you know, going to a language school and learning to speak, right, it's one thing, but when you're going to a business level course, where not only do you need to learn to speak, but there's a lot of like more practical trainings during the course. It's a lot harder for it to be done, for one thing, from home or in a nearby school, since those tend to be a lot more specialized and thus a lot rarer. But you're gonna want to like go to one of those. I mean, you don't really have to go to a business one, but at the very least you're gonna want to go for normal conversational Japanese school. These are fucking... I really don't want to deal with these guys. Let's get out of there. But yeah, you just slowly pick it up along the way. If you truly intend to work in Japan, I mean, there's no need to rush to get your first job there. But it's easier depending on where you live to get a job, because if you're in an industry that you know would have a fair chance of getting there. And then you just slowly work your way over the years, you know, because it's not easy trying to get your first job overseas straight away unless you have the connections and the huge amounts of talent, which I don't have, to get there. You know, it's not easy, but it's always the second or the third one anyway. In most countries aside from Japan, people don't tend to stay in the companies for more than a few years anyway, so yeah, just try to get something related in your home country where you can practice it more as well. It's just one of the more important things, if anything. And just slowly and eventually, yeah, try to improve your command of the language while looking for, well, after maybe a few years, one year maybe, I mean, you could probably consider trying to look for a company over in Japan, which is what I did at the time. Although it seems I'm going completely off on a tangent, like it's supposed to be about my life story and all, but it ended up being about like how I picked up the language in the end, I guess. But yeah, long story short, for me, I actually was quite interested in games and, well, any weeb shit in general, which a lot of it doesn't make sense. For the sake of being able to enjoy those, I picked up the language. After picking up the language, I managed to somehow get myself to the point where I could get an N2 from the JLPT. At that time, I was in university. This combo game, I won't go for it this time. Yeah, JLPT N2, which you would want as a cert because like that's the bare minimum. Without it, I mean, no matter how proficient you say you are, unless they give you the chance for the interview, that cert is fucking necessary if you want to get employed. Your command of the language, which I got it before entering university. When I entered university, I entered like some weird club thing, or rather just Japanese culture related in general, although most of the people there are just weebs anyway, so it just ends up being largely a weeb, a club that panders to weebs in that sense. Alright, moving to yeah. Got into a pretty high position, then used that opportunity to start up some contacts with like in the club Japanese headhunting companies in the country. Using that, you can then using that you then have a springboard to get access to more part-time jobs, which I then just took up a shit ton for the 4 years of university. Try and improve as far as possible. Got invited to Japan once for like a headhunting thing between the like biggest universities in the country. I failed completely at that time because it's like, while I was in university, yeah, I did manage to improve quite a bit, but it's like, me being me. Alright. Oh fuck, they move really fast, don't they? Okay. Ended up being quite a nervous wreck, so it's like, I ended to fight quite a lot as well. When I went over, and just like, didn't do too well. I got hired by no companies. None of them, I mean. And then use that as an opportunity to learn, get free food, free flight to Japan, all that. Then just went home. This is the button. Then, that was in my 3rd year of university, I think. After that, when I got back home, I started to practice more, I guess, in preparation of hopefully getting employed and moving there when I finally graduate. Well, obviously that didn't work as you heard from the parts of my story, but like... Hello? Okay. Yeah, as you heard from parts of my story, obviously that didn't work out. And I didn't get hired right off the bat by a company in Japan, but just kept pushing. Eventually got a job in a Japanese company in the country that had like a branch in the country. After I got, but at the time I actually did in preparation and to challenge myself further. I actually got the GLC1, which is basically a pretty redundant certificate. In general, like you learn everything you need to do by N2 to like function as a normal human being and work at N2. But N1 is just like it's a fun test. Even the Japanese actually take, because even for them it can be a challenge. So I take it for fun. I actually passed it, which helps a lot since the Japanese like branch office in the country would also be looking out for them, since it's not an easy test to pass. And even though I barely passed it, it's still a pass, and that helps in getting a job eventually. In the country. From there was when and how, why. The next step, right? Well, and it just so happens that while working in that company, or rather initially I entered the company with the intention to stay there for a while, and since it's a branch company of a company in Japan, I didn't see the thing jump on me. Oh fuck. I guess we need to go very... Oh no, not those. Got them blown up by... Oh fuck, that spawned behind me as well. Fairness in video games, right? It's a fucking myth. But yeah. 1 second, I need to get this right so I don't die and level up. Okay. So, got a job through... I mean, in the end, while it didn't get me a job directly in Japan, all that practice did pay off and got me a job in a branch in Singapore. Branch in my home country. It's really like a bit fucky as well. Yeah, I mean, got a job in the branch company, and yeah, while they did say there will be potential opportunities for them, as it turns out, that's a very small minority of people in the country, or in the company, that will actually get that opportunity. And most of them get it after like working there for 5 years, which in a world where most people only work in a company for 1 year, that's a pretty long time to stay for. So I decided, fuck it, let's get the fuck out of here eventually, since the company itself just used to even be able to grow as well, which is like, when you're young, that's the most important thing, right? You don't want a cushy job that lets you rot for the next 60 years. You want one, I mean, it's not even cushy since your pay will be low as a fresh graduate, but like, you wouldn't want a simple job that would basically pay you little and give you barely any room to grow for the next 60 years. You would want something that lets you grow and develop, right? So I left after I got my new job, which basically what I did was that I just I tried applying to a bunch of Japanese companies in Japan directly. Because turns out it doesn't really work, you know, for the most part, if you are not someone already working in Japan. I don't understand how my FPS is still 60 when the game is fucking charging. Okay, sure. Yeah, got... While working, still in my own home country, I tried applying directly. That didn't work for obvious reasons. No one's gonna like suddenly answer the email of a random weeb who wants to work in Japan and just be like, yeah, sure, we'll give you a job. No company's gonna do that. Well, I mean, there probably might be, but I'm not talented enough to make that work. Right? So I spent a few months failing to do that. Or rather, doing that and failing. Rather, that's what I meant. And then I finally decided, you know what? How about we do it the way I initially got my jobs at home as well. To go in to a headhunting company. Since those companies, they have a financial incentive in seeing you get hired, and they have the connections needed to get you through the first stop. Get you through the first step. So I tried going through a few in Japan as well, in hopes that one of them would help me. Which, the first one didn't really help at all, and I think I spent like, what, a month with it? 3 months of companies like reaching out for an interview, and then for some reason, even though it's written in your profile on that website, they still don't realize that they didn't already work in Japan, so they already have visa. So most of the interviews just ended there. The moment they hear you have no visa, they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we can't hire you. Because we don't deal with the creation of new visas or application of new visas. We just want to hire people who already work here. No, sounds a lot like companies asking for, 8 years of like working work. It's just like those memes, of companies asking for graduate level employees with like 8 years of work experience and shit like that. It's the same thing, You just have to, yeah. Is it even worth it? Oh, I can't even open it. Right, so is this supposed to be something of value? What the fuck is that? Can I even use this? I don't know. I'll just take it. We'll go back and we'll go through all 10 floors again. Because that's the goal for today. We're just gonna do this over and over until my mind I finally go crazy from the intense repetition in hopes of getting something useful. Which I probably won't, but we can dream that maybe we'll get like good gear or something that we could use. Right, back into the dungeon we go. I guess we could try going 20 floors instead of like just 10, but it's like I can barely survive those 10 floors to begin with, so going another 10 sounds like kind of pushing it kind of thing. Because then I would really be out of like enough items to get the entire way, I suppose. But these are the 10 floors specifically that have that good shit at the end, right? And it's theoretically the shorter since it's 9 instead of an actual 10 floors unlike the other 2, so I guess we'll do it again. Now, take it slower maybe, so hopefully we can get more shit along the way. But yeah, when you hit, even so, from there I learned that, or rather at that time I started to lose hope a little since the headhunting company wasn't able to help much. Most companies weren't willing to hire and they had very many connections as well, it seemed like, at least, since very few things were coming my way at all to begin with. Not there that I actually had the good fortune of being picked up by another headhunting company from that company's portal. I don't know how the fuck that works, but yeah. While using the job hunting portal, the mail from another job hunting company that was like, hey, would you like to use our service? You might be able to help. So I signed up for it, as shady as it was at the time, and I spoke to the representative. For them flat out, like, yeah, I don't have a visa, so this might be a really tough thing. Since unlike the previous accounting company I used, this one actually gave you a representative to speak to. So I just told them, right, that hi, this is the problem I have. If you can't help me, then just get rid of me, like from the website in general. No point keeping me around because it all benefits neither of us. To which, surprisingly, the person was able to help. So, unlike the other one, where it was more passive, companies typically came to you, a lot like LinkedIn. This one, they actually helped me to prepare a list of all the companies that might be potentially hiring. And they just told me to like, pick whichever ones you want to use. We'll try to reach out to them and see how it goes. So I basically just like picked out a few companies that I was really interested in. You know, you just pick a list and just control F, search for something you like. Hey, this is interesting, and just pick those. And then I just selected like, you know, like the 50% of the remaining list and just gave them the entire. Which, yeah, we tried. You know, with them and then I succeeded in the end, but that was a very long process of like 8 months, I think. 6 months. 6 months? 6 months. No. 7 months, sorry. Long process of 7 months of me interviewing with company under them. Can I actually level up in time? No, let's not take the risk. Or should we? I guess we can run through as fast as possible for now, and we'll just like grab all the chests and fuck off. Right? And then when our HP gets low, or SP gets low, we'll fill up all the rest of our EXP. Which to begin with is already filling as we run around, since like slight damage gives us EXP as well, a bit quite little. Also, is my voice even audible? That's something I didn't really think about too hard, but hopefully it is. And it's like I'm not just speaking to air while you're just watching like a silent stream for the sake of having like a silent stream or something like that, but yeah. A good fortune of being picked up by a second company that basically said they would try. Well, when I gave them back 50% of the list, I think there was 70 companies on it at the time. Out of 70, around like 60 of them just like rejected me without even like looking at my resume according to the company. They just like, nope, he has no visa, we don't need him. So I went through 10 interviews, failed all 10 of them because like me being still being a nervous wreck for all those years, I couldn't like interact like a normal human enough to actually get hired. Because it's like, there's something about an interview, right, for a job that could potentially change your life, since, you know, it's a very big shift in country of occupation and all that for me at the very least, to one that I would be most likely more happy with. So the pressure of doing that while also having to worry about work just like got to me, and I just kept fumbling. In particular during the speech, like, where they just ask you to talk about yourself and things like that. You know, I think that's like the easiest thing in the world. Like, we do that all the time, like with our friends, family, and all that. Not as much when you're trying to like do it in a formal work setting. in a language that you're not familiar with or that familiar with.
大丈夫？罠です。アイテム拾ったよ。
So it's a long wall and a lot of
行きます。大丈夫ですか？行きます。行きます。そこ。
holy shit, with the slick floor this actually moves quite far, doesn't it?
大丈夫ですか？
But yeah. You got an interview from there. Or when 10, failed all 10, then they came up with another list. And we did the whole process again. And this time, obviously, the number of times had already failed across the span of like, what, 5 months. The list was much smaller. In its entirety, probably 40 companies compared to the initial like 100 and 140, 50 plus that I got. We tried again.
じゃあ行きま
38 of
しょ
the
う。
companies actually said no because I didn't have a visa. And wait, no, 37, sorry. 3 of them got back. One of them was a pretty big company which I just botched because I was just so nervous at the time I just couldn't even think straight. Since that would have... Yeah, that was really unfortunate, huh? Being young and so easily excitable. What the fuck is that damage? Was that double damage this war? Ah, no wonder. Okay, we're skipping this then.
ですよ。行きます。行きます。そこ。拾ったよ。
But come on. That barely sent me anywhere. But yeah. It goes 40 more interviews, 40 more applications, another 37 of them fell out. Okay, yeah, it's not. I don't want to fuck with this. Failed 37 of them at the application process, which is great, you know. Nothing says like fucking good morale than failing 37 of the applications before you even have a chance to prove yourself, right? Just great. Just like fucked up 1, 2, 3, the first 3 actually that we did. Get back. Then the last 2 actually both eventually, or rather, out of the remaining 2, one of them got back first, saying they would want to do a second interview, and then oh no wait, sorry, that one didn't want a second interview. After the first interview, they were saying they actually wanted to hire me, and the last one was a much bigger brand name company said they wanted a second interview, which big advice from this guy who worked himself almost to death, right? Do not go with big name companies just by virtue of brand name unless you fucking have a body of like fucking steel, alright? Because your body probably won't keep up if you try to overexert yourself working there, which you probably will have to by virtue of how big you are, particularly in Japan at least. An actual problem, I would think, but yeah. Since it was a bigger name at the time, I was like, you know what, let me try to get the second interview first and see how it goes before getting back to the second company, right? And I have a big move, so that's what I did at the time. So I went to, so the big catch, right, in all of this was that they would not actually pay for the transport to get there for the second interview. Basically, just to go for the interview itself, which there was no guarantee I'd even get the job, right? I had to pay for the interview myself, or the flight to Japan for the interview myself. Great, right? Pay for lodging as well. Literally everything, you pay for yourself just to go there for an interview you may not succeed. up, but since I already had the other company willing to hire me, I figured, why not? Just give it a try. It's a bigger name after all. Maybe I would have more to learn there. So I flew over, right, for the interview. Yeah, this damage is pretty fucked, isn't it? Flew over for the interview, and it left quite a fun chat, you know. For some reason, just something about like doing a physical interview instead of an online one just like hyped me up more. Lord knows why, I don't know why either. It just was like that. With the newfound hype, I actually like managed to speak a lot better. Or at the very least with less hesitation, I guess. Like one problem I had a lot when doing the online interviews was that I was hesitating a lot. Of like full understanding of the formality in the language led to me like hesitating or doubling down my words. I mean, you probably realize it as I speak in this stream, right? Like, I'm not the best fucking speaker in the world. Nowhere close to it, if anything. But yeah, you know, something about just speaking in real life, or rather having a physical interview, just increased my tension more. I did a little better. Enough to, well, fill the part. Fill the part? Oh, that sounds a bit weird. Like, enough to be given the part. So, great. I got the job. Or rather, it took them about less than a week actually at the time to say yes. And then at the time I already returned to my home country though, because it's like it was a pretty sudden thing. It's like I had the first interview and they asked if I could come for the second interview within 2 weeks. So since I was already working at another company, I had to somehow suddenly make time to fly for a few days for an interview, right? And of course to like tour and buy shit and go for events as well, because there's no way I'm also gonna go there and just do an interview and go home, right? Like, this major cuck vibes right there, you know, as it is. It's already major sim vibes from just paying for the interview out of my own pocket. So I figured, so just make the most. So I had to like take a decent amount of time out of work just to be able to go there for the interview. And when I came back, I just immediately threw in the resignation letter and went on my way. There was no presentation at that point. It's just like, alright, welcome back from your trip. How was it? Yeah, it was fine, you know. Had a pretty good time in Japan. You know, we all love it. It was nice. Went for a bunch of events, bought a bunch of good shit, and by the way, I want to resign within a month's time. Would that be possible? And yeah, that's how my first job ended. And after that, there began the worst part of the entire arc. You know, you think that like, well, what the fuck? You got like declined by 108 companies, no, 107 companies thereabout already. You know, across the span of 6 months, isn't that already like quite depressing as it is? No, not that bad actually. You know, I was expecting more, if anything, considering I didn't have a visa. And with how badly I was performing at the time, I didn't expect to get in for the last 2 as well, but good things sometimes happen. You know, they don't always happen, but you know, once in a while, even for people who are pretty shit, uptick streak will happen eventually, slightly. just a matter of in what form. And that was the point for me. Chance. Went over.
行きます大丈夫そこ行きます
Or rather, I didn't get over right away. What happened next was the worst part, which was basically the application for the visa. Because it's not a case of just going to the embassy and filling in a bunch of forms.
じゃあ
You
行
know,
きましょうか
saying that here is proof that I can hire my company in your country and I would like a visa to fly over. No, it's not that simple. I'm not sure how it is for other countries' visa, because you know, it's not like I've worked in that many countries or anything. Oh fuck! I forgot to. Press. I pushed. I thought I pushed it, but I guess not. Yeah, this isn't very efficient, is it? Wait, did I not bring the gear along with me? Is that why I was taking so much damage? Well, I guess if I didn't bring it along, then it's fine. It's actually pretty worth it in that case. Yeah, sure. I mean, why not, right? If I didn't bring the gear along, I don't actually lose much in all of this. I'll just bring back a bunch of weird stuff.
おやすみなさい
At least it wasn't a total waste. It should be exceeded
今日は頑張り
expectations.
ましたね
Yeah.
明日も
We
おは
good
よう
then.
ございますおはようございます
So, where was I? Oh yeah, the application process in Japan is pretty shit in general. I mean, it probably might be the case in a lot of countries, but Japan's case was quite spicy mamma mia, so to say. Like, so you don't get the visa right away, right? So what you need to do is first, you need to get something called a certificate of entitlement. Entitlement? Employment? It's a COE, right? Which is a certificate from the Japanese government within Japan that says that you can get a visa, which you then have to, after submitting documents required for that, you then submit documents in your home country for the visa itself. So you see, you know, it's there's this little like fucky thing going on over here where it's like you can't apply for the visa straight away. No. You need to first apply for that shitty little thing in your own home country.
どれにしようかな
And using that, you then apply for a visa. The problem is, you can only submit that COE thing
いらっしゃいませ売れます
in that country.
いくらにしようかな
My goddess, you're pay almost
ありがとうございま
100%.
したあったよ
Yeah, so you can only submit it there.
いらっしゃいませいくらにしようかな
There's no point in you yourself flying over to do it
いくらにしようかな
because
ありがとうございま
in
す
the end,
売れたよ
it requires very specific,
こんにちはこんにちは
well,
いくらにしようかな
specific information, so to speak, which you need
い
the
らっしゃいま
company
せ
to.
いくらにしようかな
You need the company's help to be able to fill up all of it,
そうですわねありがとうございます
including like
売れ
the
たよ
big shots in the company to stamp the paper, and you need certain
うーん
forms that need to be filled up along with it.
こんにちは
Forms which you would need to go through a law
いくら
firm
にしようかな
to actually get
あ
done.
り
So
が
it's
とうご
like
ざいました買った
you
よ
can't even do anything about it. You just have no choice but to pay a law firm a huge amount of money, like 1 to 2,000 USD,
うーん
to do this for you
こんにちはおーい
and to
いくら
basically
にしようかな
interact with your company that you're working for to get it done.
高すぎいくらにしようかなそれで
The best part about this is that, you know, you would think that like, most of the time, I will probably, since I'm working overseas, right, I will probably need like a month to get the visa or 2, and then 1 month for my work to end as a buffer. So 3 months should be enough, right? As a buffer till I can move there to work,
これですよ
you
こ
know.
れ
But
い
no,
く
no,
らにし
no.
ようかな
You know, life is never that simple, especially not with Japan. you know, these people, this country is the master, the sensei of making things difficult for everyone else.
いらっしゃいませ。
The process takes a minimum
いくらにし
3
ようかな。
months. Oh wait. Alright, this is down.
うーん
Yeah, so it takes a minimum of 3 months if you're working for a big company, up to 6 months for the
何をこうか
application.
な。
So you just see, right? You have this little problem here of this whole process taking a shit ton of time. And neither I nor the company that I applied to knew it was going to take that long. So there began, like, so when I first found it out, you know, I was scared shit-faced, like, oh fuck, am I gonna like get dropped by the company instantaneously when I tell them like, hi,
どれにしようかな。
you know, it's gonna take a few months,
何がいいかな。
maybe more,
何をこうかな。
you know, like a minimum of 7 months to get everything done. In the worst, no, a minimum of 4, in the worst case 7 or longer. No one knows how long it'll take.
何をこうかな。
You know, I was scared of my balls to tell them that.
どれ
But
にしようかな。
in a
何
situation
がいい
like
かな。
that, it's not like I had a choice or anything either. So I told them that,
何がいいかな。
and bless their souls, they actually waited.
何をこうかな。何をこうかな。どれにしようかな。
Which is the reason why I'm still working here, even though I'm like fucking half dead at this point. You know, like medically, I'm like literally dying from working here. Like, that's one of the reasons why I'm still here.
何をこうかな。
Probably not a good reason,
何をこうか
maybe,
な。
but yeah, that was the reason why.
何がいいかな。
Hence why this channel came about as well.
どれにしよ
It
う
was
かな。
basically just me overworking to the point where I almost fucking died. And at the time, I mean, that'll be a story for next time maybe. But yeah,
どれにしようかな。
I got... So, after that,
何がいいかな。
I pretty
どれ
much
に
just
しよう
like,
かな。
in order to get myself over into Japan for work, I
何を
basically
こう
had to
かな。
submit like that shitty COE document, which takes
何
like
をこうかな。
4 to 7 months. It took me 5 months to get it done because the company itself was decently big. So
セーブします。
the government was like, yeah, sure, the company you're working for is decently big
ど
now.
れにしよ
Why
うか
not?
な。
We just let you work here.
どれにしようか
Although
な。
it did still take a while. Thankfully, the company waited, and I got over, right? After all that time had passed. Not exactly a short time either. But yeah, the entire process was basically just me living in fear for like 5 to 6 months. No, 5 months, yeah. Wondering if the company, because it's like, the law firm doesn't get back to you. They just tell you like, oh, we'll get back to you when your application is done. Which is like, yeah, but when the minimum time required for the application for the COE, or which is the form you need to apply for a visa in Japan itself, when the application itself takes a minimum of 4 months, that means that you don't know of that entire extended duration of time how things will go, right? So you just have to deal with like living in fear
行きましょうか。
the entire duration,
行きましょう。
because the company itself is also not familiar with how the application process. Oh fuck. Okay, yeah. How do I do this now? There we go. Yes, you have to deal with living in fear for like 4 months. And then for every month after that, you just live in even more fear because you're not sure if it's going to get rejected and sent back to you, and if it gets rejected, this whole process is going to repeat. So it's like 4 months, assuming that they say yes. If they say no, it takes 8 months. If they say no again, it's going to take 1 year. It's going to take a year. On top of this, just to get fucking paperwork done to get a visa. So I was lucky, it took 4 months. The visa took another month. No, it took 5 months and the visa took a month after that. So it was an additional month of living in extreme fear that I'll be completely jobless since through my, I did a very small brain move of throwing in the resignation letter before I even moved over. At the behest of the hiring company instead. a fucking scary thing to do, but hey, at least it worked out in the end, although
そこ
I don't recommend doing it. You know, there's no need for you to do it and listen to the company like I did. Okay.
そうです
Like, if you know, now you know that the process actually takes a fuck ton of time, right? It didn't take the 3 months that me and the company that hired me thought it would. So,
行きます
advice, don't fucking do what I did and just toss that letter in thinking everything will go
お
fine.
願いしますください
Because it actually takes a way longer than anyone expect. That I am as well, so. And after 4 months, we got a COE. Using that, we apply for the visa, which the visa is just used as a one-time entry visa for Japan. You know, it's not like a visa you can use to get in and out of the country. You know, you use it once to get in,
はい手伝ったよ
and that's it. The visa is invalid after that. After that, every time you want to leave the country, you need to apply with a separate form. Permission to leave the country, which I think about it, pretty fucked. And, like,
大丈夫ですか
I don't know if there's a norm anywhere else in the world, but like, yeah,
行きま
you
す
have to basically apply for permission from the Japanese government to leave their country, even though you're not even a Japanese citizen. It's a fucky thing that exists. Probably some arcade like fucking
手も拾ったよ
system that has existed since the fucking Showa era or something. That it's there.
行きます
You need to do it to leave the country.
大丈夫ですか
So I got my one-time visa and then I went to the
大
country,
丈夫ですか
only to realize after that once you get in, you need to then apply for your the equivalent of a residence card separately, and that took like, you know, that one was pretty fast, but
大丈夫
there began the next part of the endless troubles that would make you trying to
行
become
きます
a worker in Japan.
はい手伝ったよ
So you think, alright, so the hiring process was already dog shit. The application process for a visa was also dog shit. Then, how could things even get any worse? You know, Japan is so inefficient when it comes to vendors that. How do you get worse? Right. So there's a very weird paradox, I would say, or like there's this like impasse. There's an impasse in the application process for everything else. Because when you move in,
花ですよ
there are some things that, like in any other country, you probably need. Right? First and foremost, you're gonna need your residence card, and then you're gonna need a house for obvious reasons. Next, you're probably gonna want a phone line, also for obvious reasons, and you're gonna want a bank account, also for very obvious reasons. So you need these 4 things, right? The problem is that all 4 of these things require each other to apply for each other. Because this process did not take into account the fact that as a foreigner you might be applying to come into the country and you're not like already a resident of Japan. There's like nowhere in the framework that expects this to be a thing. So you get stuck in an impasse, right, where everything requires everything else.
行きます
And you can't get anything else because you need at least one of these things to get the others. So to get a phone account, to get a phone line, you're gonna need an address and a bank account. So obviously for them to gyro the bill from and to send your phone bill to in the first place. And a bank account for you to pay for the initial cost, because certain Japanese processors just do not accept foreign cards well. and the support system. Very fun process of so I can't get my phone number first. So you can't get your phone number unless you have a bank account and an address. So what do you need to get? A bank account and an address. To get a bank account, you need an address and a phone number. And you need your residence card as well. Which means that you need all three of the other things to get the bank account. And in order to get those three things, to get your phone number, you're gonna need two of the other things. So, obviously the phone number and the bank account aren't gonna work out as the first things to get. So, what about the residence card? That should be the easiest thing to get since by virtue of the fact that you're moving into the country, they have to expect that you are gonna want to apply for your card to show that you live in the country, right? So to get that card, you need an address. You don't need a bank account, but you need an address. So what else is there? You can't get the card, you can't get your phone number, you can't get your bank account. So let's get a house. What do you need for a house? You need a phone number, and you need a bank account. So you can't get anything unless you already have some of these things. Which, depending on the hotel of residence, if you move there and initially started staying in a hotel, this may not be possible. So you're stuck with the process of having to live in very specific forms of residences once you move there, and then staying there for a while in order to get the paperwork done. And only after that can you finally move out and slowly get off all of these things. And here's another problem. If you're from a country where your name has more than two parts, basically almost anywhere else in the world, it's like if you live in America, let's say your name is like George Bush, right? It's George W. Bush. You have three parts to your name. Japanese systems, right? They can't deal with people having names that have more than two parts, because Japanese people have names that only have two parts. Things like Tanaka Yoshie, it's just Tanaka and Yoshie, or Kugimiya Rie, there's Kugimiya and Rie. That's every single Japanese name. There is no exception to these rules. And as such, most of their institutions are built around using systems that only accept names that are in this form. So, you're gonna want to, if you ever move here, to have that form. So, because you're gonna have to basically squeeze part of your name onto another half of your name, and you're gonna have to remember for the rest of your life how you squeezed it. Because when you write your name in on other forms in the future, you're gonna have to write it without the space, unless it's a separate form that does not require an exact match. Right? So what I did was basically rent out not my own home, but they have this like foreigner home for foreigners to stay in, basically with a bunch of other foreigners. It's like a dorm in college, but basically for foreigners in Japan only. And you stay there for like a bunch of time until you get everything settled, which I did, and then sell, so that I didn't have to like deal with other people's quite literal shit as well while living in that separate house. You might say that's a pain, but well, it's this Japan being Japan. There was no choice. We just lived there with others, having to put up with all of their quirks until we can finally move out. Needless to say, there are people who love their life as well, but no, man, not for me. I just wanna peacefully sit at home and talk to myself while playing games, Can you imagine how weird the entire process of what I'm doing right now would be if I had like 3 neighbors all working from home in this like COVID period? listening to me scream into a microphone and talk about that, just like I wouldn't even want them to like know it's me that's talking about my life right now, you know? Like I don't want that. You know, it's gonna be weird screaming anything while they are just over there going like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? So, living alone is great. End of the story. I mean, end of that part of the story. End of story, I mean like, end of story, living alone is great. Right? So, I moved out to live on my own location. Okay, time to. That was fucked. That was fucked. But hey, at least we got through that. Holy shit. But yeah, I moved out. Just to live on my own. Nearer to the company or place I work rather. And after all that, then it finally got done. Although then quite a long time, which was worsened by the fact that okay, so here's the thing, right? It was just partly me not doing enough research as well when I moved to Japan. Right? Like I didn't do enough research about how life or how different most of the basic things you need to do in life in Japan are before I moved into Japan to work. So I moved over, and for the first time in my life, I learned about the free electricity market, I guess. Like, you know, where instead of the government controlling the utilities of the country, it's quite common in Asian countries. In Japan doesn't have that, so you have to actually contract the electricity for your house separately. Same for your utilities, which there are like a never-ending number of countries that do that. So I moved over, eventually got a house of my own, or rented an apartment rather, and then realized that I have to sit like in an apartment with no electricity for 1 week. While they get all of it. No, it had electricity, but it didn't have utilities like water and sewage. So I had to sit in a house like that for 1 week with no hot water in the middle of winter. Like freezing my ass off because of the fact that I had no water to shower with. For 1 week because I didn't realize that those were markets that were free in Japan. Very big brain play, I know. Yeah. That was how. Oh, come on. My first year in Japan went after, or rather the first month in Japan went after moving here. You can't, it's like fucking 7 degrees in the house, and you can't like make it any better. And you still have to find a way to shower in the middle of all of that as well. Quite a shitty process, but yeah. Did all that. You finally move over, and after a year, or after 1 month of living in that fucking horrible process, I finally got things settled down and finally became a salaryman in Japan. Hey, that's where the origin of the channel's name came from, half part of it at least. And then how did we get to this point where I'm just online speaking to myself, or well, to you all, but mostly to myself, I guess, during most of the streams. Yeah. How do I get to this point of like, from like moving to another country to pursue your dream job in the dreams to like sitting around streaming instead of working, right? Or streaming during work hours instead. Well, the answer to that is really simple. Or not really simple, but well, I mean it is simple, sorry. Well, simply put, Japan, you know, the stereotype of people fucking walking to death, or the karoshi culture here. You know, it's not that much of a stereotype. It's still better than the country I came from, because like, you know, we talk about the high death rates in Japan, right? But like, it's not like Japan has it the worst. In general, if you're in a modernized enough company, it's not that bad, you know. The work hours are less than the country I came from. For the equivalent pay, you get more than leave a year. You know, most things in general are better. Not everything, of course, but a sufficient number of things are. Right? So, sufficiently decent in general. Not completely, but good enough. But it just so happens that Corona, or the pandemic in general being the pandemic, well, let's just say a lot of things happened, which caused the team to shrink from a size that I worked in, at least, to shrink from a size of what, 8 people to, or you know, from like 9, 10, they're about 10 people to 3 people. Very spicy. Very, very spicy time indeed. So you basically had 10 men's work being done by 3 people, including me. And in this situation, by virtue of how slow and although the country is kind of homophobic, how xenophobic Japan in general is, and how fucky the hiring practices in Japan are in general, took them in a very inefficient 5-6 months to find a replacement for the small number of quit, and to make it up for the rest that are no longer around. That took like the better half of 6 months. I think it was 8 months. It took a very long time to make a replacement, basically. Although I must say this is probably gonna be a pretty weird stream for people to join in the middle, just hear me whine and bitch about life, I guess. But for those of you, I mean, no one's gonna probably hear the entire story in its entirety chronologically, after all. But you know, where was I? So I just like completely killed my own train of thought there. Where was I? This is how you can tell that I'm starting to grow too old. I'm just forgetting things like that. Oh right, how I ended up in this state, right? I've been doing this instead. It's a really fun thing. For the 7 months, continue like that of overwork. Very, very fun. Yes. So 7 months of being overworked, followed by even when the new people came in, it's not like things got better. If anything, things got worse, because then you had to deal with their symptoms as well on top of our work. And to make matters worse, they were companies, being companies, they try to enforce more bureaucracy, which slows things down more and increase our workload as well. So the workload that now required 15 people was becoming 3 people instead. Thereabout. So in the midst of that period, and struggling through it for months, a certain disease that I had as a kid apparently relapsed as a result of all the stress from working overtime for that entire period, day after day, every day for 7 plus. We are in March now, so until February, that's no, until the end of January, so that's 8 months of like working from 10 a.m. to 10-11 p.m. every day without lunch. It kind of caught up with my body since
アイテム拾ったよ。
being diseased doesn't help with that. So it relapsed somewhere along the way without even realizing. And it started slowly killing me from the inside, and it took like... It only took like, what, 7-8 months for it to finally get so bad that I got a heart attack. And that was the most spicy part of anything. I got a heart attack. You know, you see someone get a heart attack, what do? You call the ambulance, right? Get them to the hospital as fast as they can so they don't die. Would be common sense, but this is Japan we're talking about, so no. I have to take a half day off work. Off work, I mean. And lock myself to the closest clinic, which means that I had to limp my way in the middle of all of that to the nearest clinic, which may not even accept me because time of day close to the closing time of most not really offices but businesses in general. So most businesses
行きましょう。
in this recent period, including clinics, right? Anything that isn't a major hospital closes around 7 p.m. and as a result of corona, I mean the pandemic. So I got hit by this like fucking attack at like 6 p.m. and because I was limping my way off the office, it takes a little while to get anywhere, you know. I got to a clinic at around, I don't know when, you know, I wasn't in the best state of mind to be checking the time. And they said, sorry, we're closed. And I was like, dude, I'm dying here. Could you help me? And they're like, nope, sorry, we are closed. So, I was left with the very splendid experience of having to then walk my way or limp my way to the next clinic, only to be taken again. It was only at the third clinic that they were like, yeah, sure, you look like you're dying, let's help you out.
行きます。
So I went there. It took them. They did all the checks and everything, and they told me the next day that you had this disease in the past, right? It would seem it relapsed. So that's not a good thing. It means that your heart rate on average now is triple that of a normal human's. You know, and aside from that, poison as well is now off the fritz. You know, basically most of the food you consume is being burnt by your body by virtue of the high metabolism. So yeah, actually barely getting the food you eat as well. Most of it is just being burnt because of that. And yeah. The first thing that they said was, you know what? Since you're dying, you might want to come back every 1 to 2 weeks, right? To like get another checkup, which is what's happening even now. And more importantly, I was told by the clinic as well that, hey, you know, we get that this is Japan and all, but you might wanna stop with the working overtime so much, huh? You know, as much as the majority of this masochistic population country love to work overtime, if you keep this up, you're quite literally gonna die when the heart's gonna give out from the excessive overtime you're doing right now. So please stop. Which I was like, well, I would love to, but someone's gonna tell that to my company, so they explained it to the company. And to some extent, it's not even a complete, like, this is how it is. It's just like, to some extent, right? I was allowed to not work overtime. Is this better? This is better, right? Is it not better? No, it's worse. Wait, no, it's better? It's better. But it doesn't... the game doesn't automatically pick that up because defense goes down. Whatever, this is still better. You know, we'll probably use it next time we enter the dungeon.
とりあえず町に戻りま
But
しょ
we're
う。
gonna want to sell at least one of the 3 items to
あ
her
りがとう。
before
お疲
that,
れ
so
様で
that
した。
we don't have to lug all of it around, I suppose, and lose
今
one
日
of
も
it
頑
in
張
the
りました
process.
ね。明日も奮闘していきましょう。仕事しますよ。今日も頑張って
But yeah, and then also
セーブ
by
し
the
ます。
company, hi, we don't want you to add to the statistic and cause our company to lose face by dying on the job, so from now until your condition gets better, you shall not work overtime much. You will work. It's still just less than everyone else. Which was like,
どれ
yay
にしようかな。
I don't get to work till I die anymore, yay me.
何を置こうかな。
But at the same time, this also meant that
どれにしようかな。
right, give me 1 second to think. Yeah, I don't get to work
ど
overtime
れに
anymore.
しようかな。
You know, I just get to work, you
セ
know,
ーブします。
like a normal person for the most part.
どうしようかな。
8 hours, they're about a
いらっ
day.
しゃいませ。
Although when the 8 hours are vary quite a lot.
いくらにしようか
No,
な。
no, do what? That's
さ
not
す
for
が
you.
貧乏人ですわ。怒らせちゃったかな。
But yeah,
いらっしゃいませ。 いくらにしようかな。
working a lot of overtime and almost dying was basically the
売れたよ。
catalyst of
い
me
らっしゃいませ。
starting this channel.
いくらにしようかな。
Because basically what happened was that I could no longer, you know, do work overtime. So
欲しいものが
Nage, don't do this to me. Come on. Just buy the
どうで
weapons.
す
They're
か。
all over
い
the
くらに
place.
しようかな。
Do it.
いい買い物でありがとうございました。売れた
Wait, I forgot to sell that to her for 1 pix. My goddess. Forgive
どう
me.
しようかな。お店開けますね。
Not yet.
いらっしゃいませ。
Life sucks since you almost die.
いくらにしようか
But
な。
from that almost death, this channel was born.
ありがとうござい
For me
ました。
to,
売れた
you
よ。
know, find something to do with all the free time I have now, which is not much either. Like mostly in the middle of the day. It's not even like at night that I'm doing most of my
いらっし
streams.
ゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
They need me more to work at night rather than the day. So they're like sometimes
いらっしゃいま
periods
せ。
in the middle of the day where I'm
い
just
く
like
らにしようかな。
completely free. So I figured, you know, with that and the free time I now have on the
お
weekends,
買い得ですよ。いくらに
let's
し
do
ようかな。
something that might be a bit more interesting than just sitting around rotting and playing games alone. Why not? We do this, right?
こんにち
Start
は。
the
ご
channel
めんあそばせ。いくらにしようかな。そう
and
で
kill
す。ありがとう
myself
ございま
playing
し
games,
た。
but
買ったよ。
in a way, this will also allow me to leave a lot
いらっ
of
しゃいま
stuff to look back
せ。い
on,
くらにし
and
ようかな。
who knows, hopefully I'll entertain somebody else along the way, which would be great. You know, these were the 2 reasons why I wanted to do
どう
this.
しようかな。
Since,
お店開けますね。
you know, as a person who can't work himself to death anymore, I have a lot of
いくらにしようかな。
Nage. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
いい買い物ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
Huh.
いらっしゃいませ。
Maybe I shouldn't have put that there, huh?
いくらにしようかな。ありがとうございました。買ったよ。
That's a story. You know. I mean, there's
い
more,
らっしゃい
but
ませ。
like,
ごめんあそばせ。
long story short, that's about it.
これなんかどうでしょう。あら。い
Just
くらにしようかな。
me almost killing myself working
そうですわね。ありがとうございま
after
した。
finally
売れた
getting
よ。
over and being
こんなの売っ
stopped
てない
from
よ。
doing that a second time. Whoa. Ho
これなんかどうでしょう。いくらにしようか
Oh,
な。
this would be great if she would buy it.
参ったな。いくらにしようかな。
Wait. Ah, wait, she really.
参ったな。いくらにしようかな。
How about
参ったな。いくらにしようかな。今日は帰るわ。
Okay, that was unfortunate. I was hoping that she would have the money, but I guess not. I guess I really have to sell it at a loss, huh?
ありがとうございました。売
But
れた
yeah,
よ。
that's how this channel came about.
いらっしゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
Will I continue it when work starts? Yeah,
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
you know, this is actually quite fun for me as well, although it might seem like I'm just talking to myself more often than not.
いくらにしようかな。
But, you know, hopefully people are watching and getting some level of entertainment out of it.
い
No,
くらにしよ
I
うかな。
can't tell if people do. Because when I listen to my own voice, I
ありが
start
とうござい
to
ました。買い取ったよ。
I'm just one of those people that just can't handle his own voice, so
何をこうかな。
to begin with, so it's like, oh no. If
何をこうかな。
any of this is actually interesting to others, hopefully it is. But yeah. And so all I do is sit around playing games now.
どれにしようかな。どれにしようかな。
Only difference is
何
that
がいいかな。
I'm doing it with more people
Nani
watching me
okay?
fuck up and embarrass myself online. Fun, innit?
どうしようかな。
And with all of this,
いらっしゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
this should be a sale.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。
Okay, we'll try this for like the whole of the next. No, we don't have to do it the whole of the next day. It's like either way, we're
これ
gonna
ですよ、これ。いくらにしようかな。
have like more than enough
あり
time,
がとうご
right?
ざいました。売れたよ。
Since there'll be a day where eventually we'll be forced to sit inside
い
and
くら
not
にしようかな。
like go adventuring. So
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
yeah.
いらっしゃいませ。これいただける。いくらにしようかな。
Oh, she can't use that either. Wait, no, she can, but it doesn't. So it actually counts as being worse than everything she presently has.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
That's interesting. We thought it would be
いらっ
better.
しゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
Oh man, I really don't want to sell it to him though.
帰っちゃった。
But yeah,
こんにちは。ね、聞いて聞い
it's
て。
the story of my life to this point. From when I first decided to learn Japanese to get a job in
あ
Japan
りがとうございます。
to today when I almost died
お
from
疲れで
working
す。お疲れ様で
too
し
much
た。
in Japan. Come to think of it,
今日は頑張りました
long
ね。明日も
fun
頑張ってい
journey.
きましょう。おはよう
maybe
ご
I
ざい
should
ます。
consider a change in occupation so I don't like kill myself by
ど
accident
れにし
on
ようか
accident.
な。
But
どれにしようかな。どれにしようかな。
you know, I'm not that young.
何をこうかな。
Might be a bit better to take the gamble for the change of scenery as well
どうしよ
before
う。
it
お
gets
店
too
開け
late.
ますね。いらっしゃいませ。
I'll consider
い
it.
くらにしようかな。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。こんにちは。いくらにしようかな。
No, I want to save that. Fuck it, I'll save it for Charm and sell it cheap to her instead.
こんにちは。ごめん遊ばせ。いくらにしようかな。そうありがとうございま
But
し
yeah,
た。買ったよ。
fun days. That's
こん
how
にちは。あ
my life has gone to
いくらに
this
しようかな。
point
のね。いいよ。ありがとうございました。買ったよ。
when I just before I entered university till
こん
now.
にちは。
I guess.
ね。
You know, never in all of those days did I ever think that I would actually reach the point where I almost died from overwork since
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
even in university that didn't happen and back
いらっ
then
しゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
we were like working like day and night every day for like 7 days straight, and nothing like this happened. So
いらっしゃいませ。興味はありません。いくらにしようかな。
yeah,
あ、
it was surprising to get fucked like
いらっ
this.
しゃいませ。
Please, Nagi, buy
こ
something
んに
good.
ちは。
Wait, no, I don't have a good bracelet though.
これなんかどうでしょう。いくらにしようかな。いいですね。
Man.
ありがとうございました。売れた
We'll
よ。
try once more. We use the afternoon slot, and then I'll end it off for today. I think I need to get back to
どう
work
しよう
soon.
かな。何を置こうかな。
But yeah, hope you enjoyed the story.
どれにしよ
And
う
it's
か
the
な。
story of my life, and a precautionary tale to prepare a lot
何を置こ
better
うかな。
if you intend to move overseas for work because you hate the country you come from. Particularly
いらっしゃいませ。
if your goal is
い
to
くらにしようかな。
man go to somewhere like Japan because
いいですね。
it's quite a fucky country in general when it comes to stuff like this.
いらっしゃいませ。これ欲しい。いくらにしようかな。うん。
You
あ
just
りが
take
とうござい
it.
ま
I don't
し
need
た。
it.
売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。大学ですよ。いくらにしようかな。こんにちは。いくらにしようかな。帰っちゃっ
And well,
た。いらっ
I
しゃい
guess it
ま
does
せ。
also serve as
あり
a
が
bit
とう
of
ございました
a
よ。
reference point, I guess, that like you can actually learn to some extent from those forms of media as well. You just gotta be more selective with what you pick up, you know.
いらっしゃいま
And
せ。
now there are also some things that, as much as we want
い
to
くら
say,
にしようかな。
like, oh, I learned everything from home. See how great I
そう
am.
ありがとうございまし
There
た。
are
買い取った
things
よ。
that are harder to pick up on your
こん
own,
にちは。
which might be better to go to an institution that is, of course, knowledgeable and teach you how to
ありが
learn.
とうございました。買い取ったよ。
Things like that, because it's like, even for me,
どうしようかな。お店開けますよ。
yeah, I know I said that was the last one, but this will be
い
the
らっしゃ
last
い
one.
ませ。いくらにしようかな。うん。ありがとうございました。買ったよ。
My grammar, particularly in Japanese, was like fucking ass for the longest of
働い
times.
ています
Because like,
そうですわね。
there's this
あ
shit
りが
that
とうございました。売れ
it's
たよ。
hard to pick up on unless you're really listening very carefully and you have like
こんにちは。
someone Japanese around who can explain it. But it never hit me or occurred to me at the time to
こ
do
れ
that,
なんかどう
so
で
it's
しょう。
just a
いくらに
matter
しよ
of
うか
like,
な。うん。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
if you don't go to an institution to learn things like grammar, which tend to be a lot more particular and hard to pick up on, what might be missed out on.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。
Nagi,
大学です
please
よ。
buy
いくらにし
something
ようかな。
good.
違うんですよ。
Please, Nagi, I beg of you. There's
いらっしゃいませ。
3 items on the shelf
いく
that
ら
you
に
could
しようかな。
buy. Buy one of them.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。いくらにしようかな。ありがとうございました。買い取ったよ。
Yeah, you know, follow your dreams, yeah? It might sound corny as fuck to hear me say that, but like,
行ってきま
it's true, you know, even if you fuck up halfway through, you never know, you might just like, still get there eventually, although in a more, indirect way. You never know this kind of things, you know? So just like, give it a go either way, yeah? I don't think there's any way I can say this in a way that isn't corny as fuck. And half of it will probably just sound like hope, but
おやすみなさい。
you know, you gotta have faith, yeah? Eventually things might turn
今日も頑張りましたね。
for the better.
明日も
If you're
強調
willing
していきましょう。
Give it a gamble.
さあ、仕事しますよ。今日も頑張っていこう。
I really want her to buy something.
開店するよ。
Maybe the worst part is that that is just keeping me around way later than I should be.
こんにち
Please,
は。欲
Nagi.
しいものがあるのですが。
Ah, why would you do this to me, Nagi?
ありがとうございました。こんにちは。ください。いくらにしようかな。いいよ。ありがとうございました。
Yeah, okay. This time for sure. We'll do it until the end of the second block time.
いくらにしようかな。
And a little girl is buying food.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
Don't think that's meant for cosplay, but
い
okay.
らっしゃいませ。
Weapons. Did she request weapons? Don't even recall this happening.
これなんかどうでしょう。
Oh, that's what she's already using. Okay.
わかった。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。
But yeah, you know, it's always worth a shot. You never know. One day,
これなんかどうでしょう。いくらにしようかな。
even if it takes a long-winded way to get there. Although even then,
いら
you
っしゃい
gotta
ま
be
せ。
careful. You know, not everything that you think you want will be
さすが貧
something
乏
that
人です
you
わ。
would end up wanting. Or may not fully be what you want as well. No, best
い
to
らっしゃいませ。
think and... She didn't even enter the shop.
こんにちは。いくらにしようかな。うん。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。遊ばせ。いくらにしようかな。そうです。
Okay, fine, we'll just
買っ
do
たよ。
one more after this, and then I'm done.
いらっしゃいませ。
One more, just
い
last
くら
one.
にしようかな。
For sure this
わか
time.
った。ありがとうございました。
I don't
買
wanna
い
keep
取ったよ。
like dragging this, but I really just want her to fucking buy something
いくら
already.
にしようかな。違うんですよ。帰っちゃった。いらっしゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
What's it all the little kids buying like cool helms?
いくらにしようかな。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。
Treasure. Has the prices? Yes, the
これなんかどうでしょ
prices
う。
have
いく
gone
ら
back.
にしようかな。
That's great.
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。いらっしゃいませ。こんにちは。いくらにしようかな。
まあ、
ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
But yeah, you know, fun life lessons like those, yeah?
いらっしゃいませ。
Nagi, get out here. Nagi, please, please.
信じられない。いくらにしようかな。
Man,
あ
she's still not here, huh?
怒らせちゃったかな。
Maybe we need to put more stuff on display.
いらっしゃいませ。いくらにしようかな。
Whoa, 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 whoa.
こんにちは。いくらにしようかな。ありがとうございました。売れたよ。
But yeah, as we near close to the stage itself in game of this studio.
いくらにしようかな。
Closing
そう
words
です。あり
now.
がとうございました。買い取った
Thank
よ。
you all for watching today's stream.
いらっしゃいま
こういうのが欲しいん
I
だけ
guess
ど
it'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Just watching me do this over and over again and failing over and over in the middle. But like,
これなんかどうでしょう。
yeah,
いくらにしよ
felt
うか
like
な。
we probably needed to do this to some
いいわ
extent.
ね。
ありがとうござい
So
ま
we
した。
eventually get to the point where we'd be able to take on the dungeon without getting one-shotted by everything. So
行ってきます。疲れた。
yeah, that's all from me for today. Hope you all had a fun time watching and
今
listening.
日も頑張りましたね。
Let's talk about
お
part
は
of
よ
my
う
life.
おはようございます。
Something I really don't mind talking about. Although I do feel bad if
何
like,
がいいかな。
it wasn't
ど
really
れ
that
にしよ
interesting.
う。どれにしようかな。
There are probably more interesting episodes to talk about, but like,
何がいいかな。
yeah, that's
ど
all
れ
for
にし
this
ようか
time.
な。
You know, I don't even know if anyone's gonna be interested in the rest anyway, so
何をこうかな。
I'll just leave it at that for today.
どれに
Hope
し
you
よ
all
う
had
か
a
な。
great time.
何がいいか
I'll
な。
be going now after setting up the shop, of course.
何をこうかな。
Never
どれに
know
しよ
when
うか
someone
な。
might enter, even when we're not in game.
何がいいかな。
So best to always be
どれに
prepared.
しようかな。
But
何がい
anyway,
いかな。
that's all from
どれ
me.
にしようかな。
You all take care now,
何を
yeah.
書くかな。
Remember to stay
何を
healthy
書く
and
かな。
you know, take care of your health before you end up like me. Because by the time you reach this point, it's a bit hard to take it all back. So do take care, yeah. I'll be going off now. See you another time and bye bye.